liberty, and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start the meeting tonight with some presentations and recognitions. And first up is Bryce Wetstein. Item 4A. And we are, if you'd join me here, we are here to recognize you as being, number one of the most easygoing, happy young people that we have in our community, and I thank you for that a lot. Anybody that's seen her perform, it's always done with a smile. It's always done with great camaraderie with all her fellow competitors, and done in spirit of sport that I think exemplifies the best in American people. So I appreciate that. And so we have prepared a certificate to recognize you for your exceptional dedication, skill, and sportsmanship as a skateboarder representing your country and the city of Encinitas at the 2024 Paris Olympics. Your participation has not only exemplified the spirit of the games, but has also inspired countless individuals with your passion and commitment to the sport. Thank you for being a true ambassador of skateboarding and for contributing to the legacy of the Olympics with your remarkable performance. And I'm very proud of the history that we have here in Encinitas with skating. It goes back a long way, but many of the Hall of Famers grew up and started skating here, and it's really quite a privilege to have Bryce from our community as well. And so if you'd like to say a few words.
I would love to do a quick song or one. I'm so grateful to be standing here today because Encinitas means the most to me. I think growing up in a town that is very easygoing in itself makes you feel very easygoing. And there's a lot of times where I used to try to make things pretty complicated, like back then, when I was probably like 12, I remember thinking like, I gotta make this, complicated. And when I was 15, I'm like, I gotta do it this way. And then I realized like love is a very simple thing. And I feel like within skateboarding and music and being here today, I find that when you truly love something, it's always true, no matter how you do it. So I'm just very grateful to be here today. And I'm grateful to be alongside my family. I always say that familiarity sounds like family. So thank you for being a part of my family and my life. And yes, thank you.
We're going to perform. I'll hold the microphone and you sing. Is that what the idea is here? I understand that this is one way to really kick off the meeting with a lot of happiness, and so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. You shouldn't hope such things, yes.
What should I sing? Okay. Well, I actually haven't sang this that much, but this is a song I wrote about Paris, France, and being in the Olympics. And most importantly, the journey behind it, because it's never behind you. It's always right where you are, like memories. So it's called Perfect Moment. I don't want to sleep, I don't want to eat, I just want to feel. The world around me waits, if I can't buy time, I guess I'll have to steal. But then again, I'm free, these sights always get to me. When I move onwards, I step onwards and I fall. Writing a song could cross the line of how honest I'll be. You try to be honest, then you're too honest, then you can't be. My dream last night lasted a night, and then I told you what it means. We are ageless in our dreams. It's this Happy, no good, so good swing I'm on. It feels so heavy when I put it down. And I cry and laugh when I'm excited and a little scared. A perfect moment's always there. A perfect moment's lost so it can be found.
And Matt, you want to come up? Matt, you want to make a presentation as well?
Thank you, Mayor Kranz and council members. It's an honor to be with you this evening. My name is Matt. I bring greetings from the office of State Senator Catherine Blakespear. And this evening, we brought a certificate of recognition for Bryce Wetstein in honor of serving as a 2024 Paris Olympian. And congratulations for competing on the U.S. Olympic team in women's park skateboarding. Your passion and talent produced great results and earned you a coveted spot in the finals. Thank you for making our country and this community proud.
And we have another Olympian that we would like to recognize, Mr. Andy McDonald, if you could come up. Thank you. Andy also is an Olympian and represented very well the city of Encinitas with his accomplishments at the Olympic Games. And so in recognition of your outstanding dedication, perseverance, sportsmanship as a competitor in the 2024 Paris Olympic skateboard event, we are here to recognize you tonight. Your performance and commitment to the spirit of the sport have inspired many. Your passion for skateboarding has also paved the way for future generations, and we thank you for being a true ambassador of the sport. And I know both skaters here tonight, have spent a whole bunch of time at POODS, and it's a testament to the facilities that we have here and the rich tradition in skaters. So I don't know if you have a few words you'd like to share with us.
It's going to be a tough act to follow coming up here after Bryce. I didn't even bring my ukulele. I don't know what I was thinking. I will do you all a favor and not sing. I guess I'll just take this opportunity to follow up what you were just saying about the facilities we have in this community. It's a wonderful community for both surfing and skateboarding, and I would throw my name in the hat in support of a bowl down at Moonlight Beach, like we've been talking about. I missed the meeting, I was out of town, but there's great examples. Venice Beach for years, down in Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. It just brings the community together like nothing else, and I'd love to support building more facilities because the more the merrier, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. And if Matt is here to also represent Senator Blakespear.
Thank you, Mayor Kranz, again, and council members. My name is Matt with State Senator Catherine Blakespear's office. We brought another certificate of recognition for Andy McDonald in honor of serving as a 2024 Paris Olympian. And congratulations for competing on Great Britain's Olympic team in men's park skateboarding. Your legacy has produced great results and made you the skater with the most seniority at the Paris Olympics. Thank you for making our community proud, Andy. Yeah.
Can I mention something about Andy at the Olympics? Yes. Well, we all had to get our names picked out of a hat, and there was like.
Why don't you come up to the microphone here, there, at this podium right there.
Right here. Right here.
Oh, right in here. Hello. Oh my. Okay. Well, all right, Andy. But basically, there was this hat, and how many people were in that hat? Like 40.
44.
44 competitors in the hat. And you could call it a magic hat if it went your way, and it could. It did. A sorting hat. And there was this hat, and the guys had all these names in them for who was going to go first, like to drop in, be in the first heat, the second, third, or fourth heat. And the first name that was pulled, everyone's like, okay, so silent, and you just hear it get called, and it wasn't. I'm like, okay. And I was like, I wonder when Andy's going to call. And he was the last person to get picked. And it was so amazing. So he was like the last skater to go, and I just think best is very much last. So I just think Andy's always inspired me, and I'm so grateful for him and everyone. Woo!
What number are you? What did you get picked up?
I was the first.
Okay, now we're moving into the more, I don't know if that's the right phrase, but boring part of our city council meeting here. And item 4C has been postponed. The presentation on battery safety by the fire department will be another night. So that takes us to the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Arts update. And we've got Director of Parks, Dave Knopp, is going to lead his team.
Well, I feel like I need a ukulele to start our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Having the opportunity to see engineering last week and the police department and the fire department give their presentations, we need to give a presentation about park recreation and cultural arts and the impact that we make as a team, all of us in here, what's created, what's budgeted for, and what goes forward to help our residents and visitors get the most out of it. And I'm lucky tonight to have the Park Recreation Cultural Arts Dynamic Duo with us to help with the presentation. Put on by El Camarina and Parker Anderson, recreation supervisors for the department. If you've ever had a child have a great time in camp at one of our camps, did family enjoy a movie night in one of our parks? Do you know someone that participated in the youth commission? You had some of that last week a little bit. Then you've worked with or had the experience of being with El Camarina. Parker leads all field allocations. If you or your child played a sport in Encinitas, you probably have Parker to thank for your organization's field availability. He also leads the city adult softball program, all beach and park sports to include surf, skate, volleyball, golf, and soccer. Supervisor Parker Anderson is a National Recreation and Parks Association certified park and recreation professional. So when you see that signature with the letter CPRP next to it, that shows his experience and being certified in that. So I thank him for that also. I am honored to pass this presentation to them. Take it away.
All right, thank you, Dave. So, enhancing community where everyone belongs. Community and belonging. Both of these concepts imply social connection. The value of social connectedness is essential to a healthy community during a time when a loneliness epidemic is thought to affect 30% of the population. Connecting people to their community is a strong mental health tool. A strong community foundation like that of Encinitas, which provides rich, diverse recreation and cultural arts programs, along with access to parks, trails, and nature, inherently combat loneliness by fostering and encouraging connectedness. So this presentation is a snapshot of how Encinitas Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts has enhanced community where everyone belongs during the summer of 2024.
The City of Encinitas is the single largest child care provider for youth during the summer months. This summer, the city hosted 4,273 youth and teens in a wide variety of summer camps and programs that allowed youth to participate in sports including skateboarding, golf, basketball and soccer, STEM activities, cooking, theater, and arts. In addition to the specific skills gained in these camps and activities, youth and teens also developed assets in personal growth and relationship building through the fun, positive connections developed between campers and instructors. Here are some of the staff's favorite quotes from parents this summer.
My 3 girls had such a blast at camp. They made new friends, loved their activities, and came home happy and tired.
It was a really fun camp to introduce my son to beach volleyball. He really enjoyed the atmosphere, group of kids, and counselors.
The coaches were incredible and connected with my kids.
In Encinitas, we do more than childcare. We connect and develop youth. Of the youth and teen participants registered in summer activities, 56% of this was for beach activities such as beach kids, junior lifeguards, and surf programs. That's 2,374 pairs of feet on the sand and in the water.
As for adults and seniors, the new Mingle and Move program has launched this summer, providing adults ages 50 plus with an opportunity to enjoy an afternoon of rhythm and fun through dance and socializing. 72% of the registered adults participating were new to dance programs at the Encinitas Community Center. The Encinitas Community and Senior Center served 1,601 lunches at their Oak Crest Cafe from June to August, providing nutritious lunches for adults 60 plus. We continue to build our community at the Oak Crest Cafe by adding Creative Corner, chair yoga, and bingo. On one occasion, the Zumba Gold participants joined the senior lunch program and gave a surprise flash mob performance. It was an enthusiastic performance with creativity and contagious energy. It concluded with everyone singing happy 95th birthday to Bob, a cherished volunteer. When you come to lunch at Oak Crest Cafe, you not only leave with a full belly, but you also leave with a full heart.
The inaugural City of Encinitas Youth Piano Concerto competition welcomed young musicians to compete for 3 opportunities to perform with the North Coast Symphony Orchestra. Submissions were received from 43 talented young pianists. The 3 winners performed with the North Coast Symphony Orchestra to a sold-out audience of 300. The Moonlight Beach Concert Series held 4 Sunday concerts featuring multiple bands and drawing crowds of all ages. Each concert included a local youth rock band as the opening act. These free concerts brought together thousands, connecting them through live music and summer beach vibes. In August, the El Portal Mosaic Project was unveiled, consisting of 17 panels designed by artist Jeremy Wright. The panels were designed with the input of 600 local elementary students that relayed concepts from their history curriculum as well as anecdotes, all rich with special events and people connected to the historical culture and vibe of Encinitas. This project exemplifies the power of public art in building and connecting communities. The ultimate example of building community connections is the grand opening of the Pacific View Arts Center. After many years of planning and construction, hundreds of community members gathered to celebrate its grand opening. This unique facility is a rare gem for any community and will provide the opportunity for all ages to come together through the arts. With the opening of Pacific View Arts Center, an additional 137 cultural art classes were added to the activity guide for the public to enjoy and to develop and improve artistic skills.
In our fast-paced, technology-driven global society, Sister City Relationships offers not only the ability to build cultural bridges at a city-to-city level, but also for citizens of different nations to interact with each other at a human level. This summer, the Encinitas sent 3 teen delegates to Amakusa, Japan for a 10-day exchange that not only made a lasting imprint on their personal outlook and understanding of the world, but also impacted every person they met. We will continue to develop global connections in the summer of 2025 when we host delegates in Encinitas.
The Parks Division maintains 328 acres of parkland, including neighborhood parks, beaches, streetscapes, and open space. Additionally, Parks landscaped Pacific View Arts Center with 1,400 native plants in preparation for the grand opening. Parks continues to move forward with the Habitat Stewardship Program. This program is critical in protecting and restoring the natural beauty and biodiversity of our shared ecosystems. Investing in habitat stewardship not only preserves the environment, but safeguards health and well-being, including educational and recreational opportunities for the Encinitas community for generations to come. Research shows that the relationship between a person's connectedness to nature and their perception of happiness and well-being is directly correlated. The Habitat Stewardship Program ensures that a walk in our parks and open spaces will activate all the senses, with birds singing, native plants blooming, and animals foraging.
So what does all of this mean? Encinitas Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts offers 375 programs and activities for the Encinitas community with 6,065 registered participants. This represents a 39% increase in the numbers of activities offered, a 12% increase in revenue, and a 6% increase in registration over the past year. This translates to more opportunity, more revenue recovery, and more people enjoying our parks and programs. This is just the beginning of the connectedness that occurs in Encinitas. 96 permits were issued for banquets, special events, commercial use, athletic field use, and meetings. We brought people together with special events like Cardiff Dog Days, Leucadia Arc Walk, and Bro-Am, for weddings and other family celebrations, and for youth sports tournaments. Moreover, hundreds of thousands of people visit Encinitas parks, beaches, and open spaces each month. In summary, the data that we have, the quotes that we've captured, and the observable impact of our combined efforts are strong reminders of the power of a connected community. It is clear that the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts programs, services, and centers are contributing to a city where everyone belongs. That's it.
Thank you.
I appreciate that presentation, and it's another indication of just how much we're doing for the community and providing and making available. And I know that I've heard from many community members who very much appreciate the opportunities that they have with through the Park and Rec Department. So thank you for that. And I see no other questions or comments, so have a good rest of your evening. Okay, that takes us to oral communications.
And just a reminder, oral communications is the time to speak on items that are not listed on the agenda. You will have 3 minutes, and I will call you 3 at a time. First 3 speakers, Terry Ann Skelly, Natalie Satoon, and then Raul Villamar.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Krantz. I'm a volunteer on many youth projects in the San Diego region, sponsored by San Diego Alliance, especially after-school mentoring and tutoring programs. The permitting of marijuana storefronts in Encinitas opened a Pandora's box, paving the way for scores of other intoxicating products targeting our youth. Most prominently, Kratom, a highly addictive, unregulated, opioid-like product. These are sold in local smoke shops like the one near San Diego High School, gas stations, and convenience stores, too often without ID checks. This past summer, the Food Drug Administration sent letters to creative manufacturers in California warning companies to refrain from marketing the products as a cure-all and for making claims that the powder serves as an aphrodisiac, sleep aid, energy enhancement, all claims that young people find exciting but are very dangerous. Those who have been harmed by false advertising of kratom manufacturers are taking their cases to court, alleging that kratom distributors are misleading consumers about the addictive nature of its products. As described in a CBS story, one plaintiff testified, and I quote, "I was racked by intense physical and psychological withdrawal symptoms that were substantially similar to traditional opioid withdrawals," read the lawsuit. Now would be the time for the city to pass emergency regulations against the sale of kratom and other synthetic intoxicating products, as other cities have, like Oceanside, whose ordinance I believe you have, and the city of San Diego. And after the much-needed emergency ordinance, kratom's sale at smoke shops could be curtailed permanently by instigating stronger tobacco retail ordinance language. Remembering that smoke shops and other small retail outlets are providing easy access to kratom to the minors. Thank you for your consideration. Any city policy work that protects our youth is time well spent.
Yes, and I appreciate you speaking on this. Following comments last week, I did some research. It was disappointing to learn that a bill to prohibit, to ban the use of it at the state level was apparently not successful, so that was frustrating, and therefore we will be exploring the possibility of adopting an ordinance locally. So,
Fantastic.
yep, it hopefully will be on the agenda fairly soon. So.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you so much for caring for our kids.
Hello, Natalie Satoon Cardiff. First, I'd like to address the council concerning some expense in our town. I've been with State Farm with my auto policy since I was 15 years old. I haven't had any moving violations or accidents since living in California for 12 years, so I was shocked to see my auto policy increase $800 a year for just one vehicle. When I called my broker to inquire why, I was told that my zip code, 92007, reflected a significant increase in theft, accidents, DUIs, and this, narrow traffic lanes. Did anyone realize reduced lane size increases insurance rates? I even have a discount because I work from home and fall beneath the magical 11,000 annual mileage number. $800 is a steep hike for one vehicle. Needless to say, I'm pretty steamed. This increase is a result of your votes in addressing, or rather not addressing, mobility and crime in our town. At the heels of this, I spot checked Friday's calls for service log. Starting at 6 p.m., we had a man expose himself to the ladies at 7-Eleven on D Street. Friday calls for service also included a rape, an argument, an assault, a battery, a hot prowl burglary, display of a weapon in a threatening manner, another battery under the influence of a controlled substance, assault with a deadly weapon, threatening communications, and yet another battery. I finally stopped looking early that evening. That was all Friday. Yesterday, there was another report of rape, a suicide call that appears to have originated from SDA. Today, another suicide call, a report of a sex crime against a child, possibly originating from Capri School, and a battery call. On Monday, an assault occurred at 101, a small business involving a homeless man and a young female employee, where the 911 response time was 30 minutes for the assault. The explanation to the young lady from the deputy, there was a man with a weapon on the street behind them at the 101. How are deputies and San Diego Sheriff's staff how are they supposed to manage this caseload? These are not easy calls to respond to and mitigate, and for investigators to properly investigate. They do their best, given this council and the city are so lax with policies that would make their job easier. This is not on our responding deputies or Captain Watt's command. This council is unconscionable. Joy, time and time again, I have asked you, and you've dismissed my concerns, among other business community members. One employee had her head bashed in and was bitten by a homeless man. Tony, you were struck by the homeless woman, and somehow you have the nerve to shockingly ha-ha us on social media for everyone to see. You're not stewards of safety, quality of life, or even empathy to Encinitas constituents and businesses. We need real leadership who will address reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Raul Villamar, followed by Maria Ardance, and then Mark Maville.
My name is Raul Villamar, and folks know me from the owner of the Encinitas Barbers. On Sunday, I hope I didn't ruin your breakfast. I sent you an email showing the little present that the drunks left in front of my barbershop and in front of the bookstore. Every night, every weekend, we come to work and we have to hose down the puke. They keep on doing that. I still have 2 pots in front of my barbershop from the fight from the beer garden. I left them a note. They didn't say anything to me. It's still sitting there. I know you like to hang out there. I have a lot of people that come and tell me. There's a lot of stuff that goes around in downtown, and the sheriffs, they've been coming by my place, and I appreciate them doing that. They're trying to clean up, but you still, at nighttime, I went to the alcohol beverage control. I was a bouncer for 30 years. Yes, I was a bouncer, and a very good one. Alcohol beverage control came to have me go and help them open some other bars in town in Oceanside and Carlsbad. Right now, I'm going to go take the class again so I can see why we're still on the COVID rules for the bars. It's a little thing on there that I want to find out. We need to find out if the bars are still supposed to be letting people out there. One of the things that over serving and people who are puking, that means that they've been overserved. And in 30 years that I bounced and did security, I never got cited for that. I never got any problems with it. Now I see it every weekend, we have to go and mop down the front of our barbershop and in front of the bookstore. We need to find out a lot of things about what's going on downtown Encinitas. They're still way out of control on the drugs and smoking in the parking lot. They're still smoking out there. I took pictures of a young lady smoking and told them they couldn't be smoking out here because they're going to get a ticket. And they just looked at me and smiled and laughed. Now, the next time I took a picture is the young lady comes out of the dispensary. She's in her car. She's got the door open. I walk by, and she's smoking up. And it's that smell that you can't say it's not. A lot of people keep on coming by and just tell me they don't come to the downtown because they're worried and scared. That's all my customers. I'm down 30-40% on the weekdays, and on the weekends, 50%. Can you guys do something more than with taking care of that problem? I've been coming here for a long time asking, and I thank you very much.
Hi, all. So last week, I was pleased to hear that the council members, Lindis and Blackwell, had proposed historic districts in the city. I think that's a very needed step in working toward preserving our city's character before the state implements maybe some new rounds of nonsensical, blanketed mandates. But more pressingly, giving pause, hopefully, to the short-term thinking that seems to have taken hold from many on this council. So I thank you both for proposing that, and I do think that it would be great if it goes through mindfully and thoughtfully. So I started reading some of Encinitas' history. I got all curious. So I wanted to share with everyone something that was said by an important member of the Encinitas community. So from the Historical Society of Encinitas, and I quote, they describe iconic Encinitas resident Ida Lou Coley as saying, "She fought hard to maintain the essential spirit that was Encinitas and encouraged others to resist any mindless development that she felt might detract from the integrity of our community." So resist any mindless development, not all development, but mindless development that she thought would detract from the integrity of our community. So I want everyone to digest that for a second. That's really impactful. What did she say? And how have your actions compared to that statement? Are you protecting this amazing community and those you're supposed to be representing? Are you preserving the horse community, the coast, the farming, the ranching, the wildlife that we cherish? How are your votes impacting responsible development in the city? Are you taking the lazy path of cramming in as much housing into small spaces, which don't have infrastructure to support it, so that you can wipe your hands of this current mandate, which does not protect the community character? Or are you mindful about the direction in which your votes and your decisions are taking this community? Are you seizing on the opportunity that we just got of the court ruling, which recently gave, which allows for mixed-use zoning? So, hello, El Camino Real, right? So a couple months ago, I suggested the council place higher density housing in areas that responsibly make sense for an infrastructure perspective, right? So are we going to seize on that? Are we going to build some really cool walkable communities like they have in New Bressy? I don't know if you guys have gone up there yet, but it's so cool. I mean, people go literally right steps from their apartment to restaurants, to the store, to the pharmacy. It's cool, retail. So are you going to do that, or are you going to sell out our beach communities to developers who want to ruin our epic coastal community, for high-density housing under the ruse and the cover of this state mandate, as well as this ridiculous notion, I'm sorry, that we're going to give up our cars. We're not, okay? So as the Housing Task Force makes its recommendations in the coming months, are they and you going to take the consideration of Ida Lou Coley to resist mindful development?
Mindless,
Which detracts
right. Thank
from
you.
our integrity of our community. Thank you.
Next speaker, Mark Maville, followed by Madison Rapp, and then Dolores Welty.
All right, I'm not as kind as the rest of them, so I'm tired of the dog and pony. There is going to be a transition in November. It's going to be over, okay? It's just, can't do this crap anymore. Don't take shots at me. We need the cameras in the parks. I've asked about that. There's an issue there. The creek bed is destroyed now. It's completely contaminated. And the curfew enforcement has to be put in place. I've tried to do the best I can. I'm not a vigilante, but I'm a concerned community member here. My daughter grew up in a very similar park. It's for the kids and the parents, as well as some other things here. It's not tax revenue, it's people's interests, and you guys have lost sight of that. Development on Melba, who's monitoring these guys and letting that happen? So I just jump around a little bit there. The cannabis huts, they gotta go. I don't wanna hear any more of this crap. You can't do anything about it. The ones that wanna get high and not have any consequences are the ones that voted that shit in. So that has got to go. You got 2 here, probably 3, maybe 4 down here on El Camino Real, and it is affecting the kids, their health. I'm going to say it again, 17 years sober, I know what is going on with this little candy shop over here. That's fentanyl abuse that's being distributed, and you don't want to look at it, well then we'll have the state look at it, or somebody will clean it up, because you need somebody to just, that's it. Somebody make a decision here. You're basically outside dining, joke, 26. That is bike safety there. It's affecting the handicap access, non-related restaurant company, businesses down here. They're losing their parking, they're losing their freaking revenue, and you're losing tax revenue on top of that because people go somewhere else to get those kind of things done, or whatever it may be, unrelated to the restaurant business here, where you're in bed with them, you're making sure it keeps going on because there is tax revenue along with the cannabis huts. There's a lot of money coming back to the city from that, and we all know that. So that needs to stop. So your overall performance, as far as I've seen in 2024, you've done nothing. Nothing. Just like Biden or whatever, nothing. Kamala, a joke. This is a joke, and whether you like that or not, Native Americans, Mexicans, and all this other celebration days, we don't need to waste time on that. We're all hardworking Americans. So Flag Day or whatever, tranny day, really? You know how that affects the kids? You know, if they're, not sure, and then they decide. Come on, wake up. And it's totally
Thank you.
irresponsible
Thank you.
the way you guys are handling things.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Stop the buzzer. Period. It's careless. Really?
Heard enough.
Yeah.
Heard enough.
Bye-bye, boy.
Bye-bye.
You're done. You're done.
All right, just wanted to say thanks for acknowledging about the Kratom ordinance. That seems like a good step in the right direction. My name is Madison, and I work in the public health field advocating for environments that are safe and beneficial for all. As a young parent, I am concerned about the marijuana products sold in our city that are attractive to children and young adults, as seems to be an issue with other residents as well. From the advertising of colorful candy-flavored products to a glut of products packaged as lookalikes, to childhood favorite snacks, beverages, and candies such as Skittles and gummy bears, our children are bombarded with marketing ploys to entice them into the use of highly concentrated THC marijuana products. The choice of these products in Encinitas marijuana storefronts and their online presence make it evident that the marijuana industry is directing its marketing to young people, hoping to addict them as long-term customers. California Department of Cannabis Control, the DCC, is aware of the shameful marketing techniques of the marijuana industry. And this month, they issued reminders that the Medical and Adult Use Cannabis and Regulation Safety Act of 2016 prohibits advertising, marketing, packaging, and labeling marijuana products to be attractive to children. I gave a copy of this to the clerk to be put in the record for you to review. The DCC's announcement describing these products that are attractive to children would include a great percentage of many intoxicating products now sold in Encinitas storefronts. I respectfully request that the City Development Services Cannabis Information webpage be updated with information about the Safety Act, and that the city send notices to all marijuana storefronts, owners, and staff describing clear guidelines regarding the removal of prohibited products from shelves. I also urge the city to take initiative with their code enforcement staff in enforcing DCC requirements and take action based on the DCC admonishment that, quote, licensees that engage in advertising, marketing, manufacturing, packaging, or labeling cannabis or cannabis products in a manner that is determined to be attractive to children may be subject to citations and fines, license suspension, license denial, license revocation. Thank you for your consideration, and let's remember to keep our businesses safe and hopefully encourage children to lead better lives. Thank you.
Thought he was going to speak. Dolores Welty, Leucadia, 2076 Sheridan Road. And I know you're volunteers and you're not paid, and it's a heavy, heavy job. I know that. And I know your planning commission for the same. They're volunteers, they're not paid, they read every communication and whatever paper for every development and look it over. But what do you tell them? I would like to know what you're telling your planning commission, because the way they look at development is they just kind of see if your planning staff has done its job. Well, if the planning staff hasn't done their job, they should be fired. And that's part of the planning commission's job. But the other part of the planning commission's job is to know the general plan and the overall rules and regulations that you have put out to keep control of our land use as much as you can. For example, the head of the planning commission didn't like one of the walls or a bunch of the walls on the Clark development. But there's nothing we can do. The state has our hands tied, and he passed it. What kind of, if that's all they can do is check your planners, why don't you fire them? What are they doing, wasting their time looking over papers if they do not have the ability to say no? What is meant, pardon me, I'm getting hot. what is meant by design review? Is it more than flower boxes and paint? Isn't it how the buildings are arranged even on the property? On this Melba property, the developer is sliding his 2 stories here and his 1 stories there. And if anybody complains about their view being lost or asks him to change a 2-story for a 1-story, he'd make sure he cuts out their view with a 2-story. The man has absolutely no community benefit in mind. They have had to force him to keep Torrey Pines, everything they've done. Now, we people, we read all that stuff too. Why can't the Planning Commission have a little more guidance from you? If they can't say no, send them home.
That concludes oral communications.
Okay, very good, thanks. And Dolores, I would want to correct the record. We do get paid. It is a part-time job officially, so, and the commissioners, the planning commissioners do get a $100 stipend for a meeting, but the amount of information that they have to digest for each meeting is tremendous, so it's a token stipend. So thank you for your comments, and happy to meet and talk a little bit about the rest of your comments, but we can't talk about it here tonight. Thank you all very much for coming out and sharing your thoughts. We now will move to ask the clerk. There are no closed session reports because we didn't have a closed session today. And I'd like to ask the clerk if there are any changes to the agenda other than the 4C removal.
No changes other than the 4C removal, which will be rescheduled to a future meeting date. And then moving to the consent calendar, no items have been removed by members of the public.
All right, are there any requests to pull items from the council? Then I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
One second. Deputy Mayor? Oh, there we go. Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hinsey absent.
Okay, thank you. So that takes us to item 10A, which is a public hearing to consider and approve the fiscal year 23-24 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, which is commonly referred to as a CAPER, which is a funny name, and it's for the Community Development Block Grant Program, and we're going to hear from Management Analyst Schubert. Before we begin, I'm going to step through the procedures for public hearings. We will hear a staff report. I will then ask council to disclose any other information they have received that is not included in the staff report. We will have a round of preliminary questions by the council, and then we will open the public hearing to hear from any members of the public that wish to speak. And then once that is complete, I will close the public hearing and we will move on to council discussion and action. So with that, Management Analyst Schubert, it's all yours.
Say that again. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. The item before you tonight is the fiscal year 2023-24 Community Development Block Grant Program Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, also known as the CAPER. Let me share a few highlights from this past year. Of the $313,000 allocated for the fiscal year 2023-24, a total of $252,809 was expended, which resulted in the assistance to 589 Encinitas residents. 93% of the Encinitas residents assisted were extremely low income. 32 Encinitas residents were provided referrals, advice, or representation for fair housing services. A capital improvement project, including ADA improvements on the west side of Santa Fe Drive, is near completion. To break down those numbers, 470 Encinitas residents received assistance and support through the Community Resource Center's Social Services Department including case management and food and nutrition center. Meals on Wheels serves 68 seniors living in Encinitas for a total of 7,577 meals delivered. Interfaith Community Center sheltered 17 Encinitas community members. Legal Aid Society assisted 32 individuals from Encinitas. They conducted 5 fair housing tests based on national origin discrimination. They held monthly fair housing webinars and distributed over 7,000 brochures in English and Spanish. With funds from the Residential Rehabilitation Program, 2 homeowners were assisted with critical home repairs, including roofing and plumbing improvements, and 3 homeowners are in the application process. Carryover funding from prior years was expended for the Santa Fe Drive West Improvement Project and the Residential Rehabilitation Program. Our 3 public service providers, Community Resource Center, Meals on Wheels, and Interfaith Community Services, expended all the allocated CDBG funds and the general fund subsidy. Our fair housing provider, Legal Aid Society, expended the majority of their funds. The remaining funds will be reallocated to our Residential Rehabilitation Fund. The west side of Santa Fe Drive Capital Improvement Project is currently underway, and its completion is estimated to be this fall. The project was partially funded with CDBG funds for ADA sidewalk improvements. 2 low-income homeowners projects were completed, and 3 homeowners are in application process. We estimate these 3 projects will use the remaining funds. All but $1,700 of the program administration funding for COVID-19 response has been expended. The remaining amount is scheduled to be spent in fiscal year 24-25. To conclude, staff recommends that City Council approve the fiscal year 2023-24 CAPER and authorize the city manager or designee to submit the CAPER to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This concludes this presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask council to disclose any other information you have received that is not included in the staff report.
I have nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
And I have nothing to disclose. So next question is whether council has any preliminary questions? Okay. We will open the public hearing.
There are no speakers.
Therefore, we will close the public hearing. And we will have council discussion and action. Deputy Mayor Blackwell.
Yes, thanks for the report. Cindy, that was a good summary. There were 2 households that were helped in the residential rehabilitation program. There are 3 others, I think, in queue. We talked a little bit about this at the briefing I had earlier this week. Can we did put more funding towards that this year, which sounds like it went to valuable place. What is our backlog like, and should we be doing more in that regard?
We don't currently have a backlog. We have everyone on the waiting list is now in the application process. So our plan, which is in motion, is to begin advertising. We'll advertise on the city's newsletter. We've talked about going to mobile home parks and seeing if we can advertise in each park. We've talked about mailers. I'm not sure all the directions will go, but we will get this advertising done this fall.
That's great. Thank you very much. I'm happy to move to approve the report, and then Councilmember Ehlers.
Okay, Councilmember Ehlers.
Yeah, can you put back up you had all the money listed there. I just wanted to understand a few things. I think we talked about this during my briefing. Yeah, that one. So in this year's CDBG, the majority seems to have gone for Santa Fe Drive. And again, for everybody, can you explain why that qualifies? Because it does qualify apparently for the reason, but in general, it seems like when I go back and look at our 5-year consolidated plan, the money here is to be used for homeless, for low-income renter support, senior housing, fair housing. It does have public improvements and public infrastructure, so if you could explain that.
So this year, we added an additional amount to our residential rehabilitation program, which helps with keeping people housed, especially our low-income population. And we do see a lot of elderly taking advantage of this program. Our capital improvements program, we put the 103,672, that's the amount you're asking about.
Yeah.
We put that towards, we broke it up basically 50-50. We can only put 20% towards administration and fair housing, 20% of the grant, and 15% towards public services. So then we take the rest and divide it up. And this time, for this current fiscal year, we decided to do half towards the CIP, which was nearing completion, and the other half towards the residential rehabilitation program.
Oh, okay, so I think where I'm going is I just wanted to understand, we seem to have in the fiscal year 2020 to 2023, we put $455,000 towards Santa Fe capital improvement, and then we put half, the max we could, out of this year's grant towards half the 103,000 you pointed out, towards also the Santa Fe capital improvement. I assume that's done now, that's fully funded for East and West?
It is fully funded. They received a substantial grant. I believe it was 2 years ago. So yeah, it was fully funded and they were able to start that project.
But where I was going is, if falling into this category, it's because of the handicapped and mobility issues that the improvements are. And do we anticipate that same thing happening? Could we have put more money into either, all the other fair housing, homeless, senior housing, low-income renters? If we didn't allocate the 103, could we have put that, the 103 to Santa Fe, could we put that into the other?
It could only go towards another capital improvement type project. It can go towards the residential rehabilitation. Those are the.
Okay.
It can't go towards fair housing and it can't go towards public
Okay,
services.
so we put what we could where it had to go.
We
Okay,
put the
great.
maximum amount in public services and fair housing administration.
Okay, and that's the explanation I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lyons.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second the motion that's been made, and I just want to make a statement, and that is, I'm really happy to see how we're using this money and distributing it based on what we're allowed to do, but also in a really fair way across all the needs of the city. I do want to point out that the residential rehabilitation program is something that I'm really keenly interested in seeing how we develop that. It was pointed out in our Housing Equity and Displacement Risk Action Plan that we have the opportunity to make that more evident or more known to the community. And so I think that goes to what you were saying, that the city has been given some direction to make that a little more available as far as information to our constituents. So I'm glad to see we're connecting those dots and making that happen. I truly do believe that it is a good investment in keeping people in their houses and less of an investment than it would be to try to place them once they've become homeless. So if we can help with this preventative action and make sure that more people are aware that this resource is there for them to apply for, then I think we're going in the right direction. That was a statement, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ayers, do you have something?
Yeah, I'll follow up on a separate item. On page 23, we talk about the barriers to racial and ethnic equity in housing study. And in it, the line here says that we had 8 out of the 10 of the programs were recommended. I think we also added 2 additional that night. And I wanted to make sure that that's here included in this report. So if I could make if staff agrees that they belong here, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to the motion to make sure we correct that and add that. If you want to comment.
Yeah, I will comment. We did discuss that after we met yesterday, and the the meeting where that motion was passed was in August. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the plans were, when we actually adopted those plans was in August, and this is a fiscal year report. For the fiscal year, what that refers to is when we initially presented the equity study, it had 10 recommendations, and council directed staff to provide more information and come back on 8 of the 10 recommendations. And then later, council did ask for 2. Once we provided more information, council directed us to add 2 provisions to that additional information. And when council adopted those action plans in August, all of the provisions, including the 2 added ones, were included in the action plans.
Yeah, okay. Did you pull the minutes from the night we adopted the equity plan? Because I did. And the 2 items were in there. And when they weren't initially in the minutes, when we adopted the minutes back a couple weeks afterwards, we added them in. So they're in the official minutes right now from the original meeting. And then they didn't show up in the next round when we talked about the objectives. I got it added back in that night because they were in the original minutes. So it was done back in this fiscal year for this report. And each time it keeps getting dropped. And I want to make sure those 2 extra programs are not dropped. And
Yeah,
so
and-
this is the 3rd time I've had to do this. It's getting a little upsetting. So please, I would like to add to the motion that we go back, look at the original minutes, verify they're in there, because I have, and then put them in here too, where they belong. So if you'll take that as a friendly amendment to the motion?
That's fine. I'm not in favor of that because I think I understand staff to be saying that it's not that we don't acknowledge that that occurred, but it just wasn't in the fiscal year. Am I understanding that correctly? It wasn't in the fiscal year, which is why it's not.
Yeah, in terms of what that's referring to, it is directly referring to the 10 recommendations that were initially provided by the equity study, and the fact that council asked for us to provide information on 8 of those 10 recommendations. It's not intended to detract at all from the fact that there are other items that we added and that eventually were adopted as parts of the equity action plan and the displacement risk action plan.
May I then ask another clarifying question? Would this information show up in the next year's fiscal year's report in any way, even as noted as included on the date that it was accepted?
Yes, we can certainly do that for the next caper.
Then I think I'd go back to my original motion then, if it's really going to reflect the activity that went on in that particular fiscal year.
Yeah. So can we bring up the page 23? Because I think if you read the words, it says, we asked for action at that meeting on the 8 of the 10, and we also asked for the 2 additional. So somehow they're getting separated out, and I just don't understand why this keeps happening. Probably the easiest way is to look at the report, and I just want to make sure we get the wording correct. It's the top of, page 23 of the PDF or page 19 of with the report's got its own numbers that are separate because it's embedded in the staff report. But page 19 of 23 of the staff report or 19 of the draft.
Yes, we've got it on the screen.
There you go. So, let's see. So the second to last sentence in that second paragraph, that whole paragraph, where it starts out, City Council asked staff to conduct further research and analysis on 8 of 10 recommendations. But in that same motion, in the minutes of that same action that night, we also asked for the 2 additional. And all I'm saying is that should be represented here. if it's in the minutes, which it is, but don't take my word for it, go check the minutes. And this is the original meeting where we reviewed the barriers to racial and ethnic equity. So,
Is there a reason we can't maybe have an additional sentence added that reflects those two items? I get that you're trying to capture the FY stuff, but maybe there's a way that we can acknowledge in this that the conversation went a little bit further than just those 8 out of 10.
That can be done if council so directs.
Okay, I'll amend the motion to include that direction.
I think all these, are you okay with that, Joy?
Yeah, I'll accept that because it clarified that we're going to acknowledge that the direction and conversation occurred within the fiscal year, but the action was taken in this next fiscal year.
You could, I don't necessarily want to wordsmith here, but that last sentence, this work to provide further analysis and develop an action program is ongoing, as well as addressing 2 additional that were directed by the city council. And it's just a historic document that we want to make sure captures the conversation that we had. And so I appreciate your flexibility on that.
Yes, that's perfect.
that's perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
then we have a motion and a second, and we're ready to vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent.
Okay, thank you to staff and for your efforts, and I appreciate the CDBG program for the opportunities that it provides, the resources that it provides. Moving on to item 10B, which is the Development Services Legislative Update regarding Assembly bills or Senate bills from the 2023 legislative cycle that require city action or city council direction. And we will make the distinction that these are bills that came out of the 2023 legislative cycle, and there is a new batch that are headed our way from Sacramento in the 2024 legislative cycle.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council members. I'm Melinda Dacey, the Housing Services Manager with the Development Services Department. And I'll be providing an overview of the staff report and the legislation that we're bringing forward to Council for direction. So in the 2023 state legislative cycle, there were 60 bills related to housing and other development standards that were approved by the legislature. The 2024 session is still in process. And there was one housing bill made effective immediately that will be discussed a little bit later. In addition to the bills that are being brought forward to council tonight for direction, staff will also be providing a summary of other bills from the 2023 legislative cycle that do not need city council action. The purpose for the meeting this evening is because the city's zoning regulations require staff to initiate an update to our zoning regulations as well as the local coastal program amendments. And that requires the resolution for council to have staff start that process for that work. In addition, there's another bill where it is optional for ADU legislation, and we will be talking about that here. So SB 477 was made effective March 25th, 2024. It essentially recodified the ADU and junior ADU provisions in the government code into a brand new chapter. This requires an update to the city's regulations because it refers back to the prior code in the government code. So we need to update our zoning regulations for that. So staff recommends the adoption of the resolution 2024-110. The optional bill for council to discuss this evening is AB 1033. This bill is not mandatory. The council has discretion on whether they would like for staff to do a local implementing ordinance for this. Essentially, AB 1033 allows a separate sale and conveyance of an accessory dwelling unit. This is done through a condominium mapping process. There are other regulations specified within the government code section that, if directed to do implementation, the city would have to apply by those regulations, which include property inspection prior to final map, as well as notification requirements. And if the accessory dwelling unit is located within an HOA, then it will also require HOA approval. For this specific bill, staff is recommending the council to consider and discuss the provisions and provide direction to staff. If you would like for us to come back with an implementing ordinance, then we would return at a future council meeting to initiate the process to update our regulations to address this bill. Another bill that was passed is AB 1308. It is effective January 1st, 2025. This bill essentially restricts the city from not requiring additional parking when there's a single-family home that is undergoing a remodel, renovation, or an addition, and that it does not exceed specified limits for height, lot coverage, or floor area ratio. The city's current regulations require an increase in the on-site parking if the floor area exceeds 2,500 square feet. So our code is not in compliance with this bill, which necessitates an update to our zoning regulations. The third bill that is being brought forward this evening is AB 1287. This affects density bonus law, which is the state density bonus program that for projects that are providing a certain number of affordable units, they are eligible to increase the density on their sites for development. So this bill allows for developers or applicants who wish to invoke density bonus, a second density bonus under the state provisions. So there's specific criteria to be eligible for these second density bonus requests. They cannot have more than 50% of their base density units be affordable in the project, and they must provide the minimum affordability identified for very low, and moderate income in the table on the screen. I would like to point out that the very low income affordable percentage is comparable to the city's inclusionary requirements. So if a project is proposing 15% affordable at very low, that are complying with our inclusionary requirements, then they are automatically eligible to request a second density bonus. Our low-income inclusionary requirements is 20%, so this is a little bit higher than our local inclusionary requirements. And depending on the number of affordable units proposed and the percent affordable proposed, the applicant is eligible for the bonus increases indicated on the screen. So I do have a sample calculation. This was also provided in the staff report. For any kind of density bonus project, you have to start out identifying the base density of the site. So this example is a 0.35 acre lot. Their density is 25 dwelling units per acre, which equates to 9 base density units for the project. In this scenario, they're proposing 2 very low income units. So their 2 very low income units divided into their 9 base density units gets them 22% affordable. Under the first density bonus request, that makes them eligible for a 50% bonus unit increase, which allows them to increase the development potential on the site up to 14 total units. In this scenario, they are also proposing to do 2 moderate income units. With that, they have a 22% affordable proposed under the second density bonus, which allows them to do another 50% bonus unit increase. So their overall development potential on the site increases to 19 units when invoking the second density bonus law. In addition, the AB 1287 also incorporated modifications proposed in 2 other bills that were included in the legislative cycle. So projects that are for sale at 16% very low or 45% moderate can now request 4 incentives. That is an increase above 3, which they were allowed previously. In addition, 5 incentives are now allowed for a 100% affordable project. Previously, it was 4 incentives. And within a half mile of a major transit stop or a very low vehicle travel area, a 100% affordable project can also have a by right height increase of 3 stories or 33 feet above the typical height limit. I'd also like to point out that that provision specifically was established in 2019 in the density bonus law, and the bill essentially kind of moved where that was located. With that, this concludes staff's presentation, and staff recommends that the council receive the report and provide direction regarding AB 1033 and adopt the resolutions identified to start the process to initiate our code amendments for the accessory dwelling unit, parking regulations, and density bonus regulations.
Thank you. So the density bonus law just keeps cranking it up, and it's very challenging. So are there any members of the public wishing to speak?
We do. We have Speaker Dolores Welty.
Do you want preliminary? Councilmember
And
Ayers.
Rachel Graves.
Yeah, let's see. What was my preliminary question? I just lost it. Existing law that I think San Jose adopted it. Any comments on when they adopted it or how it's gone? Adopting 1033.
So, Councilmember Ayers, San Jose adopted that law in June of this year, and we really haven't heard any news about how it's going or any implementation news or any projects or successful or otherwise at this point. But as far as we know, they're still the only city that's actually adopted an ordinance related to 1033.
Okay. And then next question, any information out in the regulatory environment of what the impact would be to sales price and whether the resulting sales price in a beach community like ours would be affordable or not?
Really just speculation that because of the smaller unit size, it would yield us a smaller price, but no real analysis or anything that really leads to any real concrete information as to what that might be.
Okay, great.
And is are entitled projects eligible for reconsideration for second density bonuses or anything such as that?
If they withdrew their application and reapplied and went through the process, they could request that. However, a lot of the larger development projects are already working on getting their financing in place, and that takes a long time, so they may not necessarily want to come back and do that process.
Councilmember Lyons.
A clarifying question. If we decide that we don't support 1033 today, and I haven't seen a lot of public comment on it yet, so I'm kind of wondering what the community might think about it. So if we decide not to adopt it today, are there windows or openings for reconsidering that later in time?
So the request this evening is to direct staff, if you wished us to do an implementation, then we would come back to do an ordinance or a resolution to adopt the start of the project to do the work for that. That doesn't necessarily mean that if that does not happen, that council cannot direct us to do that at a future date because the bill is on the books. It's still optional at this point. In addition, if we were directed to do this work and went through the process and got public feedback and brought the ordinance forward to you all, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to approve and adopt it.
Thank you. Very, very good answer. I appreciate that.
Public speakers, please.
Okay, first 3 speakers, Dolores Welty, Rachel Graves, and then Rhonda Graves, and then Maria Ardance.
Well, first of all, I don't understand the formula 2 times. Why don't you bring that up again? The formula that shows how many a double could have, a double request. You get 19 houses out of that. And I didn't understand whether that's 19 houses on 3 acres, 0.5, or a third of an acre, 0.5.
Okay, well, we'll get clarification when you're done with your comments.
Okay. Second of all, if it's optional, don't rush into it. Drop it. Good grief. You don't have to do it yet, especially when you don't know what a low-cost house is, much less a low. I don't know. Does your salary as council persons qualify you for a low income?
If that's the only thing we were doing, yes, it would. Believe it or not, yes.
And, you know,
It's well below the area median
how
income.
low it ought to be then. Anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you.
I'm Rachel Graveshill. Joy, thank you for bringing up that the community doesn't know what's going on here. I don't think anyone I even knew what we were talking about tonight. I think it's important. This is a very big topic. Ask anybody, go door to door. This is the #1 topic in town, overdevelopment. The community needs to be involved in a decision like this. It's so critical. We have been failed. Second, I wasn't prepared to speak tonight. Second, they presented something as optional to you tonight, Tony, and your first response, before they even asked for public comment, your words were, "My hands are tied." It's optional. You are up there to make a decision, not to respond with your hands are tied before you even get a choice. So please, if you think your hands are tied, please, this is your opportunity to say no. This is also your opportunity to write to the state and tell them, we keep saying our hands are tied. Please try to untie our hands. Stand up for us. One of you has stood up for us repeatedly over and over and over again for 12, 15 years? The rest of you sit here and say your hands are tied without even asking to have them untied. Please do the right thing. You have an option tonight. Stop saying your hands are tied and stand up for our community. Thank you.
Rhonda Graves, Levenheim. I'm talking tonight about the making it possible to sell the property that an ADU is on. At 738 Rancho Santa Fe Road, which I've been discussing this for over 20 years with the city of Encinitas, they have 2 unpermitted dwelling units. They're also on septic, which I don't see anything where septic's being brought into any consideration for making these ADUs a parcel by itself. Are you contacting the health department to see if it perks out? I had to put in 100 extra feet of leach lines on my property because 738 has over a 45-year history of septic problems. Yet the city calls them, their code enforcement, to tell them they're doing an inspection before they come out with the illegal dwelling units, which gives them time to move their stove out of their garage, which was currently being lived in. They currently have 5 bedrooms and they're only perked out for 3. The city has refused for 25 years to call the health department about it. I just want this issue to be made clear. If you're going to allow them to they have an acre, they could easily subdivide their property, except the health department would never allow it. Are you going to not contact the health department? The planning department has refused to for all these years. Are you going to allow the people who have bigger parcels that want to sell half of it and still have a half acre or an acre? Are you going to allow them to do it without contacting our health department? This is a safety issue for us. We've had raw sewage on our property numerous times from these people, and I just want something done. Thank you.
Hi. So I feel like my initial my open comments were kind of relevant. Anyway, I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but please don't adopt this insane second density bonus. I mean, okay, if this is optional, what in God's name would you be thinking if you adopted this? It's optional. Please represent us. This is your job, to represent us. At the current San Diego board, not board, what was it called? The county supervisor debate they just had between Faulkner and Tara Lawson-Remer. Tara Lawson-Remer said she actually believes in local control. I don't know if I believe that, but she said it. So, oh my God, keep local control. Are you kidding me? If we have control of something, keep control, please. Do not adopt the second bonus. So let me remind you of what I was telling you earlier, because I think it's so relevant. From Encinitas Historical Society, and I quote, they describe iconic incident as Encinitas resident Ida Lou Coley as saying she fought hard to maintain the essential spirit that was Encinitas and encouraged others to resist any mindless development, oh my God, that she felt might detract from the integrity of the community. Resist mindless development that she felt might detract from the integrity of this community. Thank you.
That concludes public comments.
Very good. Thank you. My hands are tied, never crossed my lips until right this minute. What I said is that the state sure is cranking up these density bonus laws. So you can interpret it how you wish, but the fact is the state is cranking up density bonus laws, and they have been for a while now. So can the staff, can you clarify which of these bills are optional to adopt?
The only bill that is optional to adopt is AB 1033, which is the separate sale and conveyance option for an ADU.
So if
everything else is a mandatory.
Yeah, well, I think what it is that whether we adopt it or not, a potential developer can come in and submit an application and expect the staff to calculate density based upon state law. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so for years, the city had been slow in adopting state density bonus law, and it's one of the things that got us into a little trouble in the early 2010s. Am I remembering correctly, Carrie?
Yes, you are, Mayor Krantz.
Okay. So we can choose to not adopt, but that doesn't stop projects from coming in under these laws. And I think that the responsible way to deal with these state laws is to make sure that our staff are operating under local ordinances that adopt the provisions that are available to developers under state law. So, Councilmember Lyons.
So let me follow that line of comment and questioning a little bit and rely on staff a little bit here too. I think using the word adopt might be incorrect. Now, I know the recommended action says adopt resolution number, but really, essentially, we're not adopting what the state is. So I'm going to ask this other question. We're not adopting it from the perspective that we're saying this is good and we want it. We're responding to what we're required to do by changing our ordinance so that it better fits with what our requirements are. Could you help me with that? I'm not getting it right yet. Could you help me with how that's characterized?
The resolutions for adoption is to direct staff to initiate the process, to update our regulations, to be in compliance with the state law. We're not actually adopting those provisions tonight. That would be coming back through a public hearing process that will need to go to Planning Commission as well as to City Council for introduction and adoption of an ordinance.
And so it's worth drilling down a little bit more on, because I know some of the speakers said they weren't aware of this item and they weren't prepared to speak tonight. So perhaps there's more dialogue and more learning and more talking about this that's needed. And I know Mayor Kranz has kind of gone to this already, but I would like you to tell me a little bit more on what exactly would happen if we did nothing. In other words, the state, there's the state mandate, and we do nothing. Can you explain that in a little more detail, how that affects our city?
We currently have a compliant housing element. One of our housing element programs is to make sure our density bonus regulations are up to date with what's in state law. There's the potential of us not being in compliance with our housing element if we do not do the ordinance implementation to be compliant with what's in the state regulations.
And I think you said earlier also that a developer could still come in, even though we wouldn't have the language in our ordinance, and do what the state says they can do here, so it doesn't prohibit by us, not, right?
That's correct. The state law is in effect, and we would need to implement what's in the state law, regardless of what we have on our books.
And so 3 of these in front of us, are mandatory, and there's only 1 that's optional.
Correct.
All right. You answered all the questions that I had right now. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Blackwell.
I'll just pull on that thread a little more. And I think it is from density bonus, our housing element program 2D requires us to keep our housing element in compliance. It requires us to keep our ordinances up to date with state law. So those density bonus laws that we have covered here tonight, that's why we're coming forward to initiate moving forward into adopting those into our local ordinances, correct?
Yes, that is part of it. Because of our zoning regulations, we have provisions that we have to do this initiation process with the adoption of a resolution to do that work as well.
And I think the others before me have made clear that if we did nothing, we'd fall out of compliance ostensibly with our housing element, and it wouldn't stop developers from availing themselves of those state laws, because those state laws are in effect or about to go into effect.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Ehlers.
Let's see, I'll just go down one by one. On SB 440 or 477, the ADU legislation, that's just literally same code moved to a different section. So pretty easy change. So I support that. On the AB 1033, which is the separate conveyance of ADUs, I would need more information. I generally suspect I don't support this because if I look at what 1,000 square foot ADU and what the market price would be of that in Encinitas, my guess is everyone that conveys is going to convey at a market rate, and it's going to be pretty expensive. Probably not affordable. In fact, I highly, highly doubt it would ever be affordable. And so, and today, if we do a survey, right? Every housing element, we do a survey and we look at how many ADUs are rented and rented to low income. And we came back, the last number I recall was 23%. So almost 1 out of 4 ADUs today actually go to some type of low income person. Am I pretty close on the numbers there? I know they vary occasionally.
Yeah, that sounds about accurate, yes.
Okay, so we're getting RENA credit for that. And my concern is as soon as we put these things on the market, they're going to go right up to, think about it, a 1-bedroom condo, not even an ADU in a separate building, a condo is going for $800,000, $900,000 at Fox Point. So why wouldn't an ADU that has condo rights and ownership and the whole thing be $1 million? And $1 million is, how many times over what's affordable by low income? So at this point, I am not in support of implementing 1033. Let's go on to 1308, which is the parking. One quick question, does it apply to a new building? In other words, I think you made a comment in there that our code is out of compliance, but our code is okay for a new building. We just have to put an exception in there for remodels are exempted from that step up between 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom.
That's correct. That provision only applies to an existing single family, not new construction.
Okay, so so if I were giving you direction, I would say we would only put the exception in for remodels, and that a future 3-bedroom house would have, or 2,500 square feet, what's the number, 2,500 square feet? Would have to have the additional parking space, because what I see all through town is people are buying more cars. The surveys I've read say people are buying more cars, and we need to have that off-street parking. Otherwise, we're just pushing cars out into the street and down the street. Then moving on to AB 1287, which is the second density bonus. First, I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about history of what's happened with the density bonus law over the last 20 and 30 years. Back 22 years ago, 25 years ago, density bonus was just 25%. So if somebody met the threshold, they got a 25% bonus, and they only had to, 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, depending on the size of the project, but a small percentage got you a 25% bonus. Then sometime in the mid-2010s, it bumped to 35%. And then sometime probably in the last 2, maybe 3 years, it bumped with the option up to 50%. Now we're putting a whole second density bonus that is going up higher, and it's got to be close to 100% bonus. We just saw an example, went from 9 to 19. Actually, it's 110%, right? There also, I want to point out that there's a pretty egregious change in there. It gives you 3 additional stories above your maximum height, up to 33 feet. Additional. So we're going from R30, that's from somewhere around 40-some feet up to 70 feet. So we're talking, there's some pretty egregious. Now, I agree we have to implement it, but this is why your vote matters at the state level too. And we've got to fight this. We've got to get things like our neighborhood voices on the books passed in 2026 to stop this kind of crazy state overreach. So I support having to make the changes in our code, but I'm not happy about it. I oppose it, and I think we need to do other things to oppose it statewide. Thank you.
So does that mean you don't have any strategy for fighting the state on this?
No, I just said our neighborhood voices is one.
Oh, so
I mean, if you want to go through strategies, I don't think that's on the agenda tonight. But
Well, yeah,
but
we
I would be partnering with cities like Redondo Beach that just won a lawsuit against the state over SB 9,
Well, I'm
and there are
talking
many
about
other cities.
fighting these
yes,
density
the
bonus
question.
laws right now. That's your
that now?
strategy?
Can I?
26 ballot measure?
Yeah, well, that's one of the strategies, plural.
Okay.
Yeah, there are quite a few.
Just wanted
I
to be
think they're
clear.
quite, whether it's Cal-E or Livable California or Catalyst, there are a bunch of organizations that are getting together statewide, and they're representatives from across the state that are fighting this. So,
And I appreciate the fact that at this point, you're going to support adopting these ordinances. Thank
So
you.
back
Councilmember Lyons?
on, back on the agenda item we have in front of us, was that a motion? And if it was, I think I understand what it is, but was that a motion, Councilmember Ehlers?
it wasn't a motion, but let's keep talking, and then we can get to a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt these resolutions and to not advance the ADU condoization legislation.
And I think that was where Councilmember Ehlers was going as well. And I'll second that.
Okay, very good. Deputy Mayor Blackwell.
No, I'll just make a closing remark. I mean, I agree with that. I don't think we should advance AB 1033 at this point. I think just having only San Jose as the only California city who's recently adopted it, I think it even went into effect in August. They started to adopt and it's finalized in August. So it would be good to see some more come out and really what effect it has on the market price of these ADUs. If it's causing everything to go up, it doesn't really solve any affordable housing issue. But I do think the rest of them we do need to adopt. I know Councilmember Ehlers said he was not happy. I don't think any of us up here are happy to do this. I think that there are times when you have to do things, and in reality, it doesn't matter if we don't do it. It's still the state law. So, and I think we should show that respect for the law. And make sure our code resembles and is consistent with it to keep our housing element in compliance. Thank you.
And let's be clear, this is the time to talk about fighting this if there is a fight to be had. And since there isn't, I appreciate the acknowledgement that there isn't any way to fight this at this time. And so with that, we have a motion and a second, and we will move on and take a vote.
Can I speak?
No, we're done with this issue, and we got a motion and a second.
Well, it's interesting you say this is the time to fight. No, actually, the time to fight was back when 1287 was being considered, but unfortunately, we did not write a letter of objection. Unfortunately, we had taken local control out of our legislative lobbying ordinance in 2019 before I got here. I got back on last year in 2023. We put it back in. This one went through in that interim, and whoever was mayor when this was occurring did not write a letter of objection, and they should have.
all those objections that we had where bills were passed, we're dealing with that. And so with that, we will now vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Hensy absent.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We are now on to council member reports pursuant to AB 1234.
Okay, switching gears. Sorry for the pause. On September 16th, I attended the Lausanne board meeting as the Sandag representative. I took that remotely here from City Hall. And on 9/19, last Thursday, I attended the San Diego County Water Authority meeting. And it's at that meeting that I was elected as an officer to the County Water Authority, and I'll be serving as secretary. And then this morning, earlier today, I attended the Encinitas Wastewater Authority meeting.
I attended the same Encinitas Wastewater Authority meeting.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, I attended it's a working group to value study the Lausanne corridor realignment process. And it was a very interesting conversation that involved the cities of Del Mar, Solana Beach, Encinitas, and Carlsbad had representatives there. There were engineering staff from a variety of agencies. NCTD was represented. And that process appears to be moving forward and will include the I-5 alignment in the environmental analysis. It's not finalized yet, and there's still a long ways to go, but we're working on it. I appreciate the effort of Jill Bankston, the city engineer, and her participation in that process as well. And it will be very interesting where things land in a few months with regard to the environmental analysis and whether an I-5 alignment of the railroad corridor will be part of that study. So looking forward to that. City manager reports?
Yes.
Are you going to wrap
I wish.
it like we were used
I
to having
really
a little
wish.
entertainment here?
I would do you all a favor and not rap. Actually,
Okay.
I wish Bryce left her ukulele, otherwise I would sing for all of you. But again, you'd be better off without my singing. But Encinitas' hottest event is this weekend. We have the Oktoberfest. You get to enjoy some German food, some craft beer, a great event this weekend. So kudos to the Chamber of Commerce for this amazing event. It's a great community event. So if you're not busy, if you have time, check it out. It's on the 29th. So, and with that, we'll also like to announce that Sunny, our chatbot, kudos to Mr. Ubaldi there. Great work. Now you can get any answers on the website through the chatbot of what type of permits you want, who's the city council, get to know more about your council members. Chatbot will get that all for you. So instead of submitting a PRA, you can easily and readily get information on the city's website now. So excited about that new tool, and we invite the community to explore it and use it. So, and that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. City attorney reports.
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
City clerk reports? No reports. All right, very good. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
We had people hanging out for quite a while today.
Really? Well, it's only 7:45 too.
That's true.
Yeah, it's early. Sun's almost still up, right?
We've got an